Okay guys, this is lesson 7 of this unit. We're going to use our knowledge of simplifying radicals that we've been working on the past 2 days to help us with adding and subtracting. At the top it said you can only add or subtract simplified radicals. This means that your radicals must be in simplest form before you can add and subtract. So I like to use the idea, I used to remember about adding and subtracting radicals, and remember that when we add and subtract fractions, you have to have the same denominator. Now, we don't have denominators yet in adding and subtracting radicals, but it's the same type of concept. You have to have the same radicand, or the number in the radical has to be the same before you can add it. That's how I always used to remember. So I'm going to do a couple of these. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and number like we usually do. There's 4, and then we'll put 5. Question 5 down here and question 6. So I'm going to do 2 of them, and they're kind of different, a little different. I'm going to start with question 4. Let's look at it. I've got an 8 radical 7. I've got a radical 63. I've got a minus 2 radical 28. So I'm looking at these two, and they don't look like they're simplified. This one does. So what I want to do, I want to work with the 63 first. And when we simplified it, we got to find the highest factor that is a perfect square. So I'm thinking 9 times 7 is going to work. And I already see these two 7s line up together, so that's a good sign. So if I simplify this, the 3 comes out. Where did I get the 3? The square root of 9 is 3. I'm going to go ahead and bring this 8 down in the plus sign. So I simplified the 63 into 3 radical 7. Now let's come back up here. This one has a 28, so I'm thinking that is going to break down to 4, and there's your 7 again. So that 4 becomes a 2 minus sign. Now don't forget that that 2 has to be multiplied by that 2, so it's going to be 4 radical 7. So let's double check. I brought down this one. I broke this one down to 9 and 7, which is 3. There's the 3 radical 7s. Now I got an extra step here. I broke it down into 4 and 7. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and just add it straight across. That would be 11 radical 7 minus 4. So, 7. So it looks like we're going to have a 7 radical 7. Okay, now don't forget the step to remember is when you have this 2, you got to multiply by that 2 to get 4. It's easy to forget that and put a 2 down here. So we took 3 different terms, broke them down. They all had a 7 inside, which was good. That does not always happen. Let's go to question 5. Now I notice with question 5 I have no numbers on the outside, and all these numbers are different, and they look like they all need to be broken down. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 32. We've done 32 a lot, and I remember that it's 16 is the perfect square. So let's go ahead and break that one down. 16 becomes a 4. So now I have 4 radical 2 for that one. Okay. Got to squeeze. You know what? I'm going to start over, because I did this one a little bit different in terms of spacing. And I want to make sure you have enough space. When I did mine, I brought this 32 over here. Should have done this earlier. Let's start again. 16 square root of 2. This becomes a 4. Now I have 4 radical 2. I like the spacing on that. Let's put the 27 here and do our work. 9, 3. That becomes a 3. That 3 stays, so I'm going to bring this one down. Now let's look at it again. 9 and 3. This square root of 9 is 3. combine it with that 3, and end up with that simplified. Now let's do the 75 over here. I like the 75 because it's going to use a 25 for your perfect square. And times 3, this becomes a 5 radical 3. Now let's bring down our signs. That's a minus sign. That's a plus sign. Okay, now we've got to simplify it. Well, I'm looking, I have a 2 on the inside and then a 3 and a 3. I can combine these two, okay, but I cannot combine that one. So I'm going to bring down the 4 because there's nothing to combine it with. Now, let's take a look at this. This is a minus 3 to the radical 3 plus 5. So it's going to be negative 3 plus 5, which is a positive 2 radical 3. Okay, so this is what I got on the final answer. The tricky part, I think this part up here you're good at, is not combining these two because they have different number radicands inside the radical. These have the same, so I combine these two. So how did I get plus 2? Minus 3 plus 5 plus 2. And then I just brought this one down. So those are two examples. One example, all the numbers inside the radical were the same. The second example, 2 of them were the same. And the third one was not. So we had 2 terms in our answer. So I'm going to have you do the rest of them on this page, and we will come back and look at the different answers if we need to and review.